The month of March is over, so let me tell you about the books that I read this past month. Hello, my name is Jonathan, and this is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. Welcome back to my channel. Now, before we jump into the video, please do me a favor and like this video, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to help me reach 500 subscribers by June. Trying to throw a party for my students, and I told them that if we reach 500, we'd have one. So if you could help us out, that would be awesome. March is traditionally known, at least in the circles I run in, as middle grade March. So I read quite a few middle grade titles for the prompts in that readathon. If you're interested in knowing what I read for middle grade March, for that wrap up, go ahead and click the link that's going to be above, or you can follow the link in the description as well. I'm also going to have a video pop-up at the end. In addition to the 5 books that I read for middle grade March, I also read several other books this month. So let's just jump right into the wrap-up. The first book that I finished in March was Mrs. McGinty's Dead by Agatha Christie. This is one of the Hercule Poirot novels, and in it, Poirot is asked by one of his police friends to investigate the murder of a local woman. The man charged with the crime was her tenant, and even though the police charged him with the crime, the officer isn't entirely convinced that he's the one who did it. So Poirot travels to the village, and he meets many of the locals as he tries to determine who is responsible for killing Mrs. McGinty and why. I mean, she was just a cleaning lady. The mystery was good, but I'll be honest, I found this book a little hard to follow because there were about 8,347 characters in this book, and all of their names were remarkably similar. Overall, I enjoyed it because it's Agatha Christie, but I think if I ever reread it, I'm gonna need a notebook to help me keep track of all of the characters. Next, I had the opportunity to read and review The Sower's Secret by Sean Stevenson and Brock Eastman. Sean is a booktuber friend of mine who has a channel that talks about books that are very similar to the ones that I talk about. Well, he reached out and asked me if I'd like a copy of his new book, and I happily took him up on the offer. The Sower's Secret is about a boy named Anthony who moves with his mother to Parable Port. And upon arriving in town, he starts to notice some strange things, like all of the weird birds, the earthquakes, and the vines and thorns, not to mention the strange man in the green hat. It turns out that the town is being attacked by the enemies from the parable of the sower. Oh man, it's starting to rain outside. Which you can find in the Gospel of Matthew. And it's up to Anthony and his new friends to save the town. The Sower's Secret was a fun book. It was very fast-paced, and I really love the illustrations. Sean told me that the guy who did the illustrations also worked on the card game Lorcana, which has a lot of Disney characters. Great stuff. I also read a book called All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. And this was not a book that I enjoyed. It's the story of the first black sheriff in a Virginia county where it seems like every white person is stuck with a pre-Civil War mentality. The main story is about a young man who murders the beloved geography teacher at the high school. But upon a further investigation, it turns out that the teacher and the young man were abusing and murdering young children. And there's also a third individual. And now the sheriff must locate this serial killer even as the bodies continue to pile up. Now, into that, throw into the mix a group of individuals who are longing for the days of the Confederacy and the debate over whether a statue should be taken down. There's just a lot going on. And I'm going to be honest, this was not an enjoyable read for many reasons. The subject matter was hard for me. But I read it because I wanted the Goodreads Challenge bookmark. That's going to be a theme here. I'm not sure that I'm going to read anything else by S.A. Cosby. Then the next book I picked up was A Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. and this is the Haymitch prequel set in the Hunger Games universe. I made a video previously about the hardest books that I've read, and this was one of them. It's an exciting and fast-paced story about a young man who is forced into an arena where only one person comes out alive. And while it was a good read, it was dark, and the amount of suffering that Haymitch experienced is almost unbearable. I also read this one for the Goodreads Challenge bookmark as well. And then, like I said, in order to get the Goodreads Challenge bookmark, I picked up a book called The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray. I've read most of Claudia Gray's Star Wars books. She writes some really good ones about Princess Leia. So I was hoping that this would be a similar vibe. This book was a mystery involving the death of a character named Mr. Wickham when he shows up uninvited to a house party at the Knightley's house. All of the characters in this story are based on characters from Jane Austen books. And honestly, while I enjoyed reading it, I kind of struggled with this one. And that may be because I haven't read a lot of Jane Austen other than Pride and Prejudice. And I read that one kicking and screaming. It was also a very slow-paced novel. I think she was trying to emulate Jane Austen, and there were times where it dragged. Thankfully, even though somebody died, there was a happy ending. And I think this is the first in a series. So if you read it and like it, there are more to follow. And then finally, the last book that I read was a book called Darkly by Marisha Pessel. And again, pick this one up for the Goodreads Challenge. I guess it's one way to stretching my boundaries. I'm a sucker for a reward, even if it's digital and I don't actually get to hold it. Darkly is the story of a girl named Dia who's obsessed with the creepy board games created by a mysterious game maker named Louisiana Vita. When an internship opens working for her foundation, Dia applies and is accepted. It turns out that she and the other 6 interns have been tasked with finding out who stole Louisiana's final game and what happened to the young man who played it and won. He played it and won and disappeared. Now, this sounded really interesting and had a dark academia vibe to it. I really like dark academia. Turns out, at least for me, this book was a mess. Not only were they playing the game, which was a nightmarish hellscape run by what seemed like some kind of weird cult, they also decided that they wanted to investigate Louisiana and how she grew up and how she died and all of the things in between. Oh, and there was this creepy lawyer who he kept saying he was on their side, but he was always yelling at them and threatening to send them home. Honestly, the ending was so convoluted and contrived that I was really only reading it to get my bookmark. I'm sure some people will like it. It just wasn't for me. So in addition to the 5 books that I read from middle grade March, these 6 books that I just mentioned bring my total for the month to 11. Have you read any of these books? And what are your thoughts on them? Or what books did you read this month? I always like to hear what other people are reading. Leave your comments below. And if any of these books sound interesting to you, despite maybe my less than cheery reviews, remember, not every book is for every person. I'm going to leave links to purchase them on Amazon. Those will be in the description. When you use my affiliate link, I receive a small commission, but there's no extra charge to you. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers by June. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And if you want to see the videos or see the books that I read from middle grade March, the video I made for that will be popping up in the corner. You can click on that and give it a view to go check, or click on that and it'll take you